What's that, right?
Peter, you want to teach, you're waving your hand around. You want to teach, you're waving your hand around there.
Actually, I wasn't waving my hand at all.
Yeah, you had your hand
I
up.
was waving my hand around there.
Just not have your hand up.
We're just Let's open our Bibles tonight to Revelation chapter 10. This is one basic incident, but it's very, very important. And so we'll start off with verse number 1. And so we're going to ask right now, if Marvin, would you mind reading verses 1 right through to verse number, just look at my paper here. Verse number, 1 to 4, okay?
Then I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun. His legs were like fiery pillars. He was holding a little scroll, which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea, his left foot on the land, and then he gave a loud shout like the roar of a lion. When he shouted, the voices of the seven thunders spoke. And when the seven thunders spoke, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up the seven thunders have said, and do not write it down."
Okay, so we start off with verse number 1. He says, I saw a mighty angel coming down from heaven. That must have been quite a sight, wouldn't you think? You know, but this angel was fairly large, right? It wasn't a small, tiny little angel. It was a large angel, because, and we'll find out right. But first of all, he was robed with a cloud. Okay. Now,
Do all angels wear clothes?
No, I don't think so. We know that. Let me ask you this: do angels have wings?
Some do.
Some do. Some have 6 wings, some have 4.
That's right. Some have 6, some have 4. Because we have living creatures, for example, in heaven that had 6 wings. Remember, we had that from the book of Revelation. Also, as well, we have angels described in the book of Isaiah with wings as well. Okay, some do, some don't. I guess it depends on the appearance. Okay, and but this angel, he was clothed with a cloud, and it was interesting. It says with an angel or with a rainbow above his head. Okay, what do you think? Why the rainbow? Just let me ask you that question. Dramatic effect?
The colors.
A reminder of the promise? Is it a reminder of the promise?
Yes, that could be. It could be the reminder of the promise. Okay. It could also be the fact of some atmospheric phenomena that was accompanying him at the time. Okay. But, we don't really know. I mean, preachers, we have this wonderful propensity to explain everything. So, I've actually heard teachings where, a preacher will say, okay, this color means this, and this color means this, and this color means that. Okay? And, I mean, each color does have a significance. For example, when we think about the red color in the rainbow, it could remind us of the blood of Jesus, correct? Okay? The blue could be a sign of royalty, correct? Does anybody remember what the 7 colors of the rainbow are?
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
There you are. She knows all about it.
And the thing is, those people that use the rainbow as their thing, they don't have the rainbow because they don't have indigo in it.
Yeah,
They have the peculiar, not
they have a couple of
Yeah.
colors.
The interesting thing about the rainbow, of course, is the fact that it is the signification of God's promise. Okay? And it's interesting that he would do that. It does say his face shone like the sun. Okay? So, it was we know it's not Jesus. Okay? We know it's not Jesus. But this particular angel is a mighty angel. Okay? And it says, and his legs were like fiery pillars. a very powerful, very dramatic, very a type of angel that you will not forget. Okay, and so those are the four things that and it says, and he was holding in his hand a little scroll, just a little scroll. Okay, now being a mighty angel, that little scroll could have been 3 or 4 feet long. We don't know, but it says a little scroll. Okay, and there's going to be some things that are going to be talked about. And it said it laid open in his hand. Why do you think it laid open? Why was it open?
The Lamb opened the seals.
Yes, open the seals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lamb.
Okay, it's an unsealed scroll.
Yes.
Okay, so it is something that is about to be revealed. Okay, it's not a broken seal like when we had the 7 seals with Jesus opening the 7 seals. This is an actual scroll. So this is something that God has already ordained or is about to happen or has happened. Okay, so in that respect there. And it was interesting, it says in verse number 2, he planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. Okay, so he was obviously very large, and the only thing I can think of is those old movies where you see this giant creature and he comes down and he puts his feet on the ocean, his feet on the land, and you know it's something right out of ancient. I hate to use the word mythology, but you know it is a dramatic individual. Okay. The angel is not named. And do you notice that none of the angels within the book of Revelation are actually named? Okay. And we only know of 2 angels that actually have names. Correct? And who are those angels which are actually named?
Gabriel and Michael.
And in what book, I'm just giving you a quick Bible quiz, in what book are the angels named? In particular, the angel Michael and the angel Gabriel. Because they're first revealed in a particular book.
Gabriel was in Matthew.
Yes, he was.
The announcement to Mary.
Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking of an Old Testament book.
Daniel, isn't it?
In the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel. That's where we have the angel Michael is named and the angel Gabriel is named. Both of them. Okay? And it had to do with the fact that Gabriel came and brought to him a message in Daniel 9 and Daniel 10. And we find that the angel Michael had to be brought as a... So that's what we do know. And so actually there are 3 angels that are mentioned in the Bible. Who's the 3rd angel that's mentioned in the Bible?
Lucifer.
Lucifer, or
The angel of light.
the angel of light, or Satan. Okay, so this angel is not named, but we do know that this angel had a particular purpose. So he plants his right foot in the sea and his right foot on the land. Any idea why he would do that?
Because whatever's going to happen is going to happen to both land and sea.
Exactly. Exactly. It has, like the staging. I mean, John doesn't write this stuff down, and the Lord doesn't make these things happen unless there's a reason why He wants it to be done. Okay? Like we could spend some time talking about the cloud. We could talk about the rainbow. We could talk about the sun. We could talk about the fiery pillars. Okay? Because pillars, for example, are a signification of stability. But when you have fiery pillars, the stability has to do with burning away of something, correct? And so he puts his... the only thing I can think of, he's got these fiery pillar legs and he puts them in the sea. I can see the steam rising up. That's my thought anyway. All right? And so then he says, and he gave a great shout. So we have this dramatic angel now speaking. But it wasn't a speak. It was a shout. Okay? And in the Bible, what does the shout signify?
The the beginning of a raid or
Warning.
a war cry, like
It could be a
attack,
war cry.
maybe.
It could definitely be a war cry. Usually, though, in the Bible, the word is shabak, and it means to shout. And basically, when you shout, what you are doing is you are releasing praise and worship, but also as well, you are releasing tension and releasing as well a power, if you can put it that way.
Yeah, because sometimes when there's shouting in the worship, that's you're releasing the anointing sometimes.
Yeah, you can
Just
release
kinda-
the anointing. Okay. You know, usually when someone shouts, it's because there's something that they want everybody to hear.
Right.
Okay? And this shout, of course, was a shout of praise, a shout of war, a shout of victory. Okay? And it says, it sounded like it says, and when he shouted, the voice, it says, he shouted with the roar of a lion. Okay?
Like the roar.
And why the roar of a lion?
It can be heard resounding for over a mile.
Oh, yes. Have you heard of a lion?
Yes, I've heard it.
When you were there in
I
Africa?
was in Africa.
And I suppose it also made the hair on the back of your head go, woo!
Pretty nearly, yeah. It's just so loud, you just hardly believe it.
Mhm.
And it carries so far.
Yes.
It's a kind of shout that carries.
Is it just the male lion shouts or the both?
Is it what?
Just the male lion?
Yes. I
Not the
don't think
female?
the female that roars at all. It's the male that roars.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, we were in the zoo in Phoenix, and we were way across the, like coming into the zoo, and we could hear the lion roaring, and we discovered that the lion was on the other side of the zoo.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how loud it was.
So
You know,
carries
it's a sign, you know, like the shout or the roar of a lion is also very regal, very authoritative.
Yeah. It frightens the animals within the scope of it.
Mhm.
And that's why he roars.
Mhm.
Just to get them all frightened and up ready so that they can spot them.
That's right. That's right. So his loud shout sounded like the roar of a lion. And then he shouted, the voice of the seven thunders spoke. Interesting here, isn't it? Now this is one of those situations where, you know, something is said. It's interesting that, you know, when I looked at it, I said, the voice of seven thunders. Now, we all know what one thunder sounds like. Can you imagine what seven thunders must have sounded like? It must have sounded like the whole heavens were about to explode. You've been in thunderstorms where the thunder just comes one after another, after another, after another. It is downright frightful, isn't it?
Yes.
It's an atmospheric phenomenon that it's hard to repeat, right? And of course, when that is happening, immediately you have lightning all over the place, don't you? Because the rule of thumb is for every 5 seconds means the lightning strike is about a mile away. And you're hoping that the lightning strike will be a few miles away instead of right on top of you, right? And when you get the thunder and all of a sudden the lightning strike is there, you know that lightning is quick. Do you have a thought?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, is it actually seven, is it thunders, or is it that just something for something, a name for something?
No, because
It's just the thunders, okay.
it says in verse number 4, and when the seven thunders spoke. Okay, so we have the voices of the seven thunders. We don't know. See, the thing is, we don't know what the seven thunders said. none of that is revealed. Because in verse number 4, he says, I was about to write. And then he says, I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up what the 7 thunders have said and do not write it down. So this is something that will be revealed later on. It's not revealed right now. For whatever reason, God said, no, don't write it down. We don't know what the voices of the 7 thunders, but we are introduced to one of those mysteries of the Bible. And I love mysteries of the Bible, don't you? I mean, it's, for example, Daniel, at the end of his book, was about to write some things down that were said, right? And the angel said, no, you can't write it down. Just go and live the rest of your life in peace, Daniel. And that's how the book ended, right? So it's one of those incidences where God says, you know, you cannot write this down. Whatever it was said. My thought is this, and maybe it's your thought as well. It must have been so significant that it will be revealed maybe at a later time. But we don't have any more mention of it in the book of Revelation. So the only speculation that we can have is that sometime later, whatever they said may be revealed. Or maybe you have a thought.
When I was quite a bit younger, I read a story about a couple in Newfoundland. And they were quite a devout couple, read their Bible. And they came to this about the 7 thunders and so on. And they were very curious as to what could it have been that this 7 thunders said. So they made a pledge to each other. Whichever one died first, as he was dying, he would ask about the 7 thunders, and God would tell him, and he would tell her, or she would tell him. They made this pledge, they would tell each other what it was the 7 thunders said when they died. And so he was dying. He had got cancer or something, and he was dying. She hovered over him, and she said, what did the 7 thunders say? And he said, the 7 thunders said. Read this last. She never found out.
She never found out.
You should be a mystery writer.
I guess God doesn't want anybody to know. At least not at this time.
No.
Okay? But we do know, and the 7, it's one of the mysteries of the Bible. And so whoever gets there first from this group, you can ask the Lord and maybe visit one of us in a dream and tell us. It's probably not going to happen. But
I'll write
anyway.
it on a scroll and throw it down.
Okay. He says, seal up what the 7 thunders said, and do not write it down. So that's the first 4 verses, okay? We have this dramatic entrance. Okay, let's look at verses 5 right through to verse number 7. Gary, would you mind reading that, please?
And the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his hand to heaven, and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that are in it, and the earth and the things that are in it, and the sea and the things that are in it, that there should no longer be delay. But in the days of the sounding of the 7th angel, when he is about to sound, the mystery of God would be finished, as he declared to his servants the prophets.
Okay, let's look at it for a moment. He says, then the angel I had seen standing on the right hand and on the land, in the sea and the land, raised his right hand to heaven. Interesting. Why did he raise his right hand to heaven?
Isn't that what you make your oath with?
You have to make an oath. You raise your hand when you make an oath.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I'm not saying what you said is wrong. I'm just asking.
Power hand. It's the power hand.
Yeah, it's a sign of power. Okay? Raising one's hand to heaven. It could also be a sign of an oath, but usually it has to do with a declaration that is about to come.
Are we allowed to make oaths?
What does the Bible say? What did Jesus say?
Like your yes be yes and your no say no?
There you are. So you don't have to make oaths. The whole issue of oaths to take an oath to do something. It commits you to something, right?
Right.
But as a Christian, your word should be enough, right? As a Christian, you should be able to, your yes be yes and your no, no, is what Jesus was saying. So, and there's a propensity, of course, for people to make oaths because of the simple fact is that they don't trust themselves to keep the word. Okay? That's the reason why oaths are often taken. Because either they don't trust themselves or the person that they're making the promise to doesn't trust them.
So is it a sin to make an oath?
I think that, what do you think?
No.
You make an oath when you serve as a jury member or in a courtroom if you have
In
to.
courtroom.
Yeah, so that's no sin taking an oath then, is it?
I think to lie under oath would be
There
yes.
is a possibility.
I mean, like, you can affirm.
Yeah, but with you in a courtroom,
Rather than
you're on the, do you have to?
An oath is like a promise. Okay? An oath is like a promise. So if you say that you're going to do something, you need to do it. Because James put it this way, if you know what to do is right and you don't do it, it is sin. So yes, taking an oath is sin if you don't have any intentions of fulfilling it. But if there's nothing wrong with taking an oath, but you better do what you promised. Otherwise, it becomes sin. Right?
Well, it's like when you are called as a witness
Yeah.
in a courtroom, and then you purposely lie after you've already sworn on the Bible, whatever they do these days. I don't even know if they do that. But that would definitely be a sin if you went against taking that oath and then lying.
Don't you use the Bible in the courtroom when you do it?
No, that's called perjury. Right? So basically, if you don't follow through, you are perjuring yourself. All right? You are lying. And that is a sin. Lying is a sin.
You can go to
And
jail.
it's also here, like in Matthew, it says, but I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, where it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, where it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one evil one hair white or black. Simply let your yes be yes and your no, no.
And that was Jesus that said that.
Yes.
So I think we should follow the direction of Jesus.
When you are in a courtroom and they ask you to swear the oath, they don't ask you to swear by anything. They simply ask you to lay your hand on the Bible so that you'll have a real notion of the solemnity of what you're doing. And then they say, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
You can bypass that by being, telling you're a Christian, and they will just take you at your word.
So the angel, basically, it was interesting, he raised his right hand, and he swore by him who lives forever and ever. It's interesting that this particular angel did swear an oath. Okay. He did. But he did by the one who lives forever and ever. Now, I wonder why he did that. Why would he do that? Any thought, Gary? I'm throwing it out to you.
Yeah, he's invoking the power of God in what he's doing. So that when you start swearing by God himself, then you are invoking all the power of God to back up the oath that you're taking or making.
That's right. And of course, he would be in union with what God was doing because he was sent by God himself, right? But this was a declaration to the audience and to the readers of this book. Okay, this oath has nothing to do with the angel. He is just making this known that this is going to happen. And then he would explain what would happen there. He says, who created the heavens and all that is in them, the earth and all that is in the sea and all that is, but said, there will be no delay. So basically he's saying, the God of the universe, he says, I am representing the God raised his right hand. Because in ancient Hebrew, you raised your right hand, and then you invoked an oath. Okay? And that's where Jesus said, do not swear by heaven, or by the earth, or by Jerusalem, or by the altar, or by any hair of your head, because that's what they did. Those were the 5 different things that they swore by in Jesus' day. That's the Pharisees. And anyone say, nowadays some people say, oh, my mother's grave and things like that, right? But the point is, he was saying there's not going to be a delay. What is about to happen is going to happen. Because remember, there's already been 2 delays in the book of Revelation up to this point, right? One of them was a half an hour. Right? But this, which is about to come, will not be delayed. That means there's no grace on this baby. Okay? Many of us were hoping that God's going to show some grace, right? That He's going to give us some time. And maybe that was what was going on in the minds of people. Because remember, all that was happening in Revelation chapter 9 was judgment, right? And so they're thinking, are we going to get a reprieve from this? Is this will we have a little time?
No.
Because the last thing that we have in Revelation chapter 9 is the fact that the people there did not repent. Right? That's Revelation chapter 9. Remember that last week, Garrett? They didn't repent. So the simple fact is, he says, listen, there's some stuff that's coming. And when the angel blows his trumpet, he's not going to delay. Whatever he has intended is going to happen. There's not going to be a delay on this thing. He says, I just want you guys to know that by the Lord who created all things, in the name of the Lord who created all things, there's not going to be any delay.
It seems to be significant that, like in the prior section, he was in a cloud and he had 1 foot on the land, 1 foot on the sea. And then down here, he swore by, the heavens and all that is in them, and then the earth and the sea. So he seems to, connect, it seems significant, all 3.
Well, yeah,
the heavens and the earth and the sea,
And that's a very good observation, because in ancient thought, of course, the sea is significant, the land is significant, and the atmosphere is significant. All right, and often they are used as a triune. Okay, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, land, sea, and sky. Right, and so there's this trio, and so basically it's also the significance of the Trinity. Okay, so that's why it is probably put in there as well, to kind of signify that this is Trinity. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit, land, sea, and sky. We have, water, vapor, and solid, okay, which is water. Okay, so we have the 3. He says, but in the days when the 7th angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished, just as he announced to his servants, the prophets. Interesting. What do you think the mystery of God is? Because it was announced by his servants and the prophets. Any thoughts on this?
I read once that it's Jesus' salvation is a mystery. Something I don't remember, Romans or something like that.
You're actually heading the right direction. Okay? Because what is the mystery of God? The salvation through Jesus Christ. And the collection, because remember, at the end of the book of Revelation is we have the kingdom of God coming to its full fruition. Okay? And that's and one of the things that we are waiting for is the imminent coming of Jesus Christ right now. Correct? So we're waiting for Jesus to have that happen. So obviously, this is one of the mysteries that he's talking about. He says, he's about to sound his trumpet, and the mystery of God will be accomplished. So it also tells us that when this trumpet sounds, that which God has said would happen is going to happen. Okay? It will be real. And it was announced to his servants and the prophets. So what he's telling them is, if you have any idea, why don't you check out the Word? And see the theme through the whole book. From Genesis to Revelation, there is one theme, right? And that theme is the revelation of the Lamb of God. The revelation of the Messiah. The revelation of Jesus Christ. And remember, this book is the revelation of who? Jesus Christ. Okay? So all he's saying is the mystery of God which will be accomplished just as he announced it. Okay? So let's look at verses 8 right through to the end of the chapter. Actually, let's look at verses 8 right through to the end of the chapter. And Donna, would you mind reading the final chapter? Verses.
And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again and said, Go and take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make my belly bitter, but it shall be in my mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings.
Mm-hmm. So, we start off here in the last little bit, and remember I said last week that John would get to eat a scroll? I hope it was, well, of course, obviously it was. He says, Then I heard the voice, then the voice that I heard from the heavens spoke to me once more. Go and take the scroll which lies open in the hand of the angel who was standing on the sea and on the land. Okay? So there's a voice that has been constantly talking to him during this whole time. Correct? This voice has been saying things to him, ordering him to do things, telling him to do things, you know. And it was interesting. He says, the voice I heard from heaven. In this chapter, we have this voice telling him to do two things. The first one, of course, has to do with not writing down what the seven thunders say. And then the second time, the voice speaks again and tells him to go and take the scroll. Okay? That lies open in the hand of the angel who was standing on the sea and on the land. So, John does. Right? John does. So he says, I went to the angel and asked him to give me the scroll. And so and it was interesting that this is probably something John wasn't expecting. Okay? You know, he's got this, he says, take and eat it. And then he says, and it will turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey. Now, I don't know about you, but if I know that something's going to give me a tummy ache, I don't want to eat it. Right?
If you have a taste of it in your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I avoid restaurants, you know, because of that very fact. You and I had that discussion on Sunday about the fact that I don't go to certain restaurants because I know that they're going to turn my tummy. Right? So I just don't do that. But John, and I mean, the angel even warned him ahead of time. He says, this is what's going to happen. I don't know about you, but, you know, scrolls in those days were made out of leather, right? And papyrus, right? Obviously this was an edible scroll of some sort. You know, it was sweet as honey, okay? So it was obviously very, very good tasting.
If an angel told you to eat at a certain place you didn't want to, would you obey the angel or would you obey your conscience? Or whatever it is that's stopping you.
Well, he's never asked me to do it, so I'm not going to, until one comes and tells me to do it, I'm not going to do it.
You know,
You asked me, I simply said, no one has come to tell me yet. If an angel says, you must go to this place and eat, then I'm probably going to go simply because of the fact that there must be a divine appointment.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm not going to go. Simple as that. And,
Put your foot down.
yeah, but, so anyway, he says, take the scroll, and and take and eat it, and it'll turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey. Now, is there another incident in the Bible where someone was asked to eat a scroll? Jeremiah.
I didn't remember eating it.
He ate
It
something.
was told the same thing.
Something like scroll, yeah.
Ezekiel says.
It was Ezekiel.
Same thing.
Ezekiel was asked to eat the scroll.
Ezekiel was told to eat a scroll.
Well, somebody look it up and find it out for me, okay?
It's in Ezekiel.
That'll be something that, yes.
When it says here that God's mysterious plan will be fulfilled, is that when the secret of the 7 thunders, whatever they said, well, is that when that will be revealed as well?
Chapter 3?
Could be, but we don't know. Obviously, no, he was told to basically, no, it's different because it says here that he says the mystery of God will be accomplished. Okay, there's a difference between what the thunder said and what the mystery of God is all about. Has someone found out who it is?
Agnes says it.
Huh?
Ezekiel 3.
Ezekiel 2. There you are. So Ezekiel was told to eat a scroll. And a similar thing happened, right? It turned his stomach sour. It kind of tells me that if you eat scrolls, it's not a good idea. Okay, that's what it is. They taste good, but not a good idea. Not a good idea.
But it sounds like it sends him into ministry.
All right. So he says, I took the little scroll from the angel's hand and ate it, and it tastes as sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach turned sour. Okay. Why was he told to eat the scroll? Why was he told to eat the scroll?
For the prophecy. I think it was because he was going to prophesy.
Exactly. He says, then I was told, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. Okay? In prophetic language and prophetic understanding, you are literally eating the words of God. That's what you're doing. You are about to proclaim what is in the scroll. We don't know what the scroll actually said, okay? But we do know this, that he was going to, after that, prophesy. There was another man in the Old Testament that was given a similar mandate. He was told that he was going to prophesy before kings and peoples and nations around the world. And that was Jeremiah. And we have in the last 20 chapters of Jeremiah in particular, him prophesying to all these different nations. Okay, whether it was Edom or Assyria or Babylon or Moab, Egypt, all these different nations around. John's letter, this is very significant because this letter would literally go around the world, correct? This letter, in fact, is probably one of the most read books of the Bible. And I would even say it probably is the most read book of the Bible. And the reason I would say that is because most people want to know what's going to happen in the future, right? The industry of tarot cards and mediums and the different individuals who are involved in seeing the future. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom would buy the Globe or the National Enquirer. And there was always a section that, and it was always in the December edition. And I remember growing up as a kid, and my mom bought the National Choir every single month. She bought the Globe every single month. So I knew that there were aliens living on Mars, and I knew that, the Pope at the time was, had children all over the world, and this one ran off with that one. But there was a section called What Would Happen in whatever year it was. Usually it was the late 60s, right? And usually it was this lady named Jean Dixon. And so she would give her predictions. And my mom would say, well, that's going to happen in whatever it was, 65, 66, whatever it was that she had at the time. She says, oh, so Dean is going to leave his wife, Jeannie. Well, in 1968 he did. My mom says, only 2 years off. I remember her saying that to me. She was right, 2 years off. And I made the silly comment, I think, well, wasn't he fooling around before that, Mom? But, people want to know. It still goes on, folks. I mean, we're heading into the time of year where, whether it's the National Choir or the Globe or some other one of those ragtag things that you can see at Safeway or Sobeys, you're going to see that section of what is going to happen in the future, right? Because people want to know. That's why the book of Revelation is such a well-read book. But the neat part about the book of Revelation is these things are actually going to happen. Amen? They're actually going to happen. John was told, he said, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. This book is going to have a universal effect. Correct? That's what he was saying. What you're about to write, and he says also what you're about to prophesy, because the book of Revelation is not just a compilation of visions that he saw, but also as well, it is a prophecy of that which is coming forth. Prophecy has a couple of things that it does. First of all, prophecy is a revelation of the thoughts of God. Right? It's a thought. When we hear a prophecy, today, I wrote 2 prophecies. Okay, I'm now in a season. I go through seasons where I will have a series of things where God will speak to me, and all of a sudden I'm in a season like that, and that season usually lasts 3 or 4 months. And in that time period, I may write as many as 150 prophecies. I never know. Or I might only write 2. I don't know how long it is, but I wrote 2 of them today. And it was basically, I always post them on my Facebook pages, and it's amazing how many people will say, I was thinking that very thing. You really spoke to my heart. Well, all I'm revealing is what God spoke to my heart about whatever it is that God spoke to my heart today. Okay? And so what you're doing is you're giving the thoughts of God. Okay? Sometimes it has an immediate context. Okay? It's just something that someone needs to hear right at that time. Prophecy is also, secondly, a confirmation of what God has already spoken to the heart of the audience or the reader. Okay? And so that's the second part of it. A prophecy also has sometimes a future element to it. Okay? It's not happening right now, but it's going to happen. The fourth element, which is absolutely essential to a prophecy, it must be based upon the Word of God. Okay? And often a prophecy will have elements of the Word of God in it. Doesn't, but it must be based on the Word of God. Otherwise, it must be discarded. Right? Just recently I received an invitation from one of my many friends on Facebook. And he was telling me about this particular prophet that, he says, you must join this prophet. He speaks the words of God. And any word that he speaks, you must listen to, or you will be, condemned. That's what he said. I immediately disowned that friend. Because there is no prophet that speaks exclusively for God. Okay? There's not, yes.
Can you tell us what you prophesied? Because I haven't got a Facebook page or anything.
Not off the top of my head. I have it written down, and it's written on my Facebook. But so often I write things down, and it kind of just, because I wrote it down and published it already, it kind of goes.
So you written your own thoughts, or is God kind of telling you what?
I never write my own thoughts.
Well, then God's kind of
Yes, God
telling
speaks.
you what to speak to you, what to write then?
Yes, yes. It's when you write prophecies or you write things along that lines, you are the instrument to, it's your grammar, it's your style of speaking, it's the way that you would present it, but it's the thoughts of the Lord in that particular situation. Like when we hear prophecies on Sunday morning, for example, sometimes people say, "Thus saith the word of the Lord," and they start speaking in King James English, and I don't know why they do that, but they do, because I guess they figure it gives them more authority to do it. But when a prophecy comes, for example, like Sunday morning when we had 2 or 3 different times of the prophecy. I spoke, Cheryl spoke, type situation. It was the same prophecy. It was the same prophecy, but it was just 2 different people, and both of us spoke in the way that we would talk, the way that we would present it. Okay, and sometimes. Does that happen to you too, Gary? Because you do some prophecy from time to time.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at chapter 11.
You're looking at 11 already. You're ready for next week already. Can you tell us a little bit of what happens when you prophesy?
Usually I just get maybe 1 word or 2 words to start with, and it takes some faith to speak out those 2 words because you're not sure if the rest is going to come sometimes. But if you feel it's the Lord, then you start out, and generally as you go, the Lord gives you the theme, and you go along there. I sometimes use King James, but not all the time. I feel like having been raised with King James Version, I'm a lot more comfortable with that than I am with some of the newer versions. So I kind of switch back and forth. Sometimes I'll use King James English, and sometimes I won't. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, many times what happens is I will sit down with a prophecy. If it's a written version of the prophecy, I usually only have what I would call the first usually phrase. And then it just flows. And it just comes. And you just write it down, and as God lays it upon your heart. And sometimes afterwards I go over it and look at the grammar and say, okay, let's change this part of the grammar. Because it has to sound like it makes sense. You can say, draw near to God, draw near to God, draw near to God. Well, that may be all that you get.
Yeah.
But then usually the Lord tells you why He wants you to draw near to Him.
Right.
And also as well the effect of drawing near to Him. The application, there has to be some application as well. So, as I said, it depends. But in the case of John, he says, your responsibility, after eating this particular scroll is to prophesy. He says, you're about to do it again. Okay? And he says, this prophecy is going to go to many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. So he's talking about people groups. He's talking about nations, okay, established nations, and nations that will be established. Because obviously from the 2,000 years, there have been many nations that have risen and have fallen, correct? One of the great empires that have fallen was established in his day was the Roman Empire. But some 400 years later, it would fall, correct? And nations around the world. But, I mean, there are nations being created all the time.
220.
And so we have nation states, we have thousands of nationalities around the world, correct? You know, some as small as 300 or 400, and yet also numbering in the hundreds of millions, right? You know, in the nation of India alone, they speak 17 or 1800 languages. That's India alone. Okay? You know? And so it's amazing. It's also nations and languages. I mean, they say that there are over 3,000 languages on the earth. Okay? And kings. So this message is not only going to go, it's going to go to authorities. You know? For example, Ronald Reagan regularly read the Bible, and his favorite book was the book of Revelation. Okay? Now, Ronald Reagan is gone, of course. You know? And Obama says that he's a reader of the Bible. And we'll leave that one alone. But the point is that, okay, you have, and recently Putin has started reading the Bible as well. It's interesting, you know. So we have Russians, and we have Americans, and we have Canadians, and we have, you know, people from all over the world reading the Bible, looking at the book of Revelation. So it has a universal appeal. And so John, in this chapter, of course, the whole theme is, John, you're about to reveal some very important things. Now, Gary, you've been looking at Revelation chapter 11. Can you give us a little snapshot of some of the things that you talked about?
I have no idea yet. I find it quite confusing. Just trying to sit down and get some manuals and take a look at this thing here.
Is that not
Zechariah, these two witnesses that are in here are also mentioned in the book of Zechariah in chapter 4. And there's some reference to them there along with two golden lampstands. That are these, Zechariah chapter 4. There's some reference to those here, and I'm going to have to tie that together. But I was just looking ahead at chapter 12 as well. It seems like we're getting into a period where almost like a flashback, and I'm just trying to figure out in my mind whether John is talking about something that happened at the time Jesus was born, or whether it's something that is going to happen in the future. Because he's always talking about this 3.5 years, how the mother of the Savior was hidden for 3.5 years. Does that mean Jesus was in Egypt for 3.5 years? I don't know. We'll find out. There's a lot of stuff in here, you know, when you look at it, first of all, it's kind of closing because of the way that he wrote it. And I know that in the Bible, in this particular book, John tends to jump back and forth between events, and some events that are in chapter 12, which are also covered earlier. But it's just a further explanation. So I have to do some studying to figure out where we're going in chapter 11.
Okay. And we'll turn this guy off.